What's up, everyone? Matt Gajewski here, back again with the Odd Shopper channel. And today we are talking some college football week 11 to Friday slate. Before we get started, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you know when this and all other content goes live. If you've done that, thank you. It does help us a lot. We're also brought to you by Bet365. They have a deal where you can bet $5 on any game, side or total. It doesn't matter. Whether it wins or loses, you will get $150 in the form of bonus bets. And better yet, if you follow these steps, which you can find by clicking the link below or just going to our Odd Shopper website, all you have to do is follow these, and then you will get one free month of our Tails package through any of the offers below. Bet365 is included. So that is one free month of a Tails package, myself, Ben, whoever you want. And then you are also getting that offer, and you can take advantage of this as many times as you want with the different offers. So you could stack BetMGM and Bet365, and that's 2 months for you. Great offer, the best one we've ever had, and I'm not sure how long it'll be around, so make sure you take advantage of this. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. You must be 21 or older to play. All right, I'll bring you behind the glass. We've got a big 4-game slate filled with some pretty good games overall, some Big Ten clashes. I'm pretty excited for this. And we'll bring you to our Odd Shopper live odds screen right now. We're recording this a few days in advance, so you're going to see some of the MAC games and whatever this AAC contest is. We'll kick things off in the ACC with Cal taking on Wake Forest. Cal's going across the country, but fortunately they had a bye, so they should be well rested and prepared. Wake Forest also off a bye, very generous of these conferences. And there's a lot of injuries on both sides. I'm going to start with Cal, where they are decimated at wide receiver. We'll see who actually suits up for this game. But Tobias Merriweather, Kyan Grays, Maven Anderson, Mason Starling, they've all been missing time. Corey Dykes has been out. Their right tackle, TJ Sessions, has been out. On defense, Ryan McCullough on the edge. Cade Uwalave at linebacker, Lou Magia-Hearns at corner, Jair Smith at safety, and Aiden Kianana, I don't know how to say his name. He was at limited snaps last game, so they've had a bye. Maybe they get some of these guys back. I don't know. On the Wake Forest side, Donovan Green might return from his hamstring injury in this game. At least there's optimism. Walker Merrill has not been updated, so it seems like he'll be out again. They've been very, very banged up in the secondary as well. Capone Blue, Jamari Glasker, Sedarius Kelly have all been missing time. Bryce Ganius had limited snaps at defensive tackle in their last game, so there is just injuries on injuries to monitor in this spot. Overall, these two teams actually stack up fairly well, and I have interest in the home dog in Wake Forest, especially if Cal is going to have as many injuries as they do. Wake Forest actually comes in ahead, slightly ahead of Cal in terms of power rankings. It's not like either of these teams have played super difficult schedules. Cal played Auburn, where Auburn, they beat themselves with the 5 turnovers in that game. They had no business losing to Cal. Otherwise, I'm not sure who their best win is. It's probably Oregon State. And I don't know if that's a particularly good win. Otherwise, San Diego State, UC Davis, this is a very weak crop of wins. I mean, this team lost to NC State, albeit by a point. They lost to Pitt by 2. They lost to Miami by 1, which is honestly probably their best data point. But Cal, very lackluster schedule. And then Wake Forest hasn't been much better. This team got absolutely blown out by Ole Miss. They lost to Virginia in a game that was very close. Lost to Louisiana by 3. They did beat NC State, so that's positive, but they only had a 44% post-game win expectancy. And then they did beat UConn and Stanford. I guess those are decent points. The overall point I'm trying to make here is that these two teams are closer than the 7 points indicate. If you just go position by position, I do think there's probably a slight edge to Cal. Mendoza, 68.5% completion. Bachmeier, 63%. Yards per attempt, it's 8.1 for Mendoza, 7.4 for Bachmeier. Turnover-worthy plays are pretty consistent between the two. Mendoza with 9, Bachmeier with 8. Neither of them can run. The better offensive line does belong to Wake Forest, and that's not particularly close. Cal is at 97th in pass blocking, 116th in run blocking. Wake is at 20th in pass blocking and 23rd in run blocking. Wake might also just have straight up the better run game. This is hard to evaluate because Cal has been without Jaden Ott for most of the season, and he's returned, but his yards per carry, all the efficiency metrics are just downright horrific. We know Ott's a good player. I think that stems directly from the injury. Now that the bye has been behind them, maybe he's a little healthier. I don't know. It's just been bad. And then with Donovan Green back, perhaps Wake Forest has better receivers, depending on who suits up for Cal. We're not even sure on that. On defense, I do believe Cal has a pretty decided edge. They're 37th overall. Wake Forest is 89th. They've been very, very lacking in coverage specifically because of those injuries. So the openings for Cal to throw the ball should be there. It's just you're working with the worst pass game against the worst defense. Wake Forest is the better pass game against the better defense. Where does this win out? I tend to side with the primary strength of Wake being that offensive line, being able to run the ball, hopefully just shove it down Cal's throat. Their D-line is their weakness. It's not super weak, but it's around middle of the pack. Just too many points here. I will wait on this to see if we can't get a better number. +7 is really the consensus. If you take the 7.5 on FanDuel, you got to lay a lot of juice, which is not something I like doing. The total in the game is 55. Didn't really touch on that. That seems fairly efficient to me. Perhaps you could look at an over. Pace is pretty good. 50th in pace is Cal. Wake Forest is 17th. Next game up, one I haven't taken this. I was waiting. Is Iowa taking on UCLA. This game, it's kind of settled around 6, 5.5 in most spots, and 6.5 in some spots now. I think anything below 7 is fine. I was hoping this would come down. It did briefly, and I'm realizing this now on the stream. It was 5.5 this morning. That was waiting to see if it went to 5, and it actually went the other direction. This seems like it's just Iowa traveling across the country. I don't know why this is within 7, so I should probably just take this now. Overall power rankings have Iowa 9th, UCLA 114th. UCLA has one decent data point where they beat Nebraska, and Nebraska's QB got hurt in the game. Otherwise, they beat Rutgers, who's down about 6 starting defenders. Their box scores honestly look closer than they should have been. Like Penn State only had 3 defenders that start for that team over 50% of the snaps. This is just a bad UCLA team across the board. Garber's 10 turnover-worthy plays, 65% completion. He's honestly been better than I thought because he's playing behind an offensive line that ranks 123rd in pass blocking, 100th in run blocking. This team cannot run the ball, nor are they trying to. Their receivers are pretty banged up at this point. Rico Flores has been out. J. Michael Sturdivant missed a ton of last game after he took an enormous hit. Who knows on him? And then on defense, Gary Smith, defensive tackle, Keanu Williams, defensive tackle, and Kanye Clark at corner have been out for this team. And it's not a good defense anyway. They rank 116th overall. They're 118th against the run. That's a recipe for disaster against Iowa, who's now turned to Brendan Sullivan under quarterback. He's not very good, but one thing he can do that Cade can't is he can run the ball, which at least adds a little bit of dynamic ability to this team. They're playing behind an elite offensive line, 9th in pass blocking, 11th in run blocking. It's one of the best units in the country. And Caleb Johnson is an absolute wagon. He's up there in efficiency metrics, right there with Ashton Genty. The only difference is Genty gets significantly more carries because Boise's willing to run him 35 times a game. Iowa doesn't do that, but you should just know the efficiency metrics are right there. Iowa 7th in defense. Very good pass rush. They should absolutely annihilate this UCLA defensive line. So I'll stop my hesitating. I'm going to be on Iowa in this spot. That is the end of the story. Next up, let's go. Okay. I skipped ahead, I see. Can't skip over Rice taking on Memphis. I'm wearing my Rice shirt and I skipped over the game. My bad, guys. We'll backtrack. Rice is a 9.5 point underdog on the road against Memphis. The total in the game is 52.5. That stems from a below average pace. Rice is 70th. Memphis is 87th. Rice fired their coach. Perhaps that lit a fire under this team because they ended up getting a win, and a pretty decent win too. They beat Navy 24-10. The unstoppable Navy, I was told. Yeah, Rice now has 3 wins on the year. They have some horrifying losses. Most of those came very early in the season. They got blown up by, Navy's counterpart Army. But Memphis also is coming off some pretty alarming showings as well. In their last 3 games, they beat North Texas by single digits, Charlotte by 5, and then they lost outright to UTSA. And those aren't the only blips on the radar for this team. They gave up 56 points to Navy earlier this season. This is not the Memphis team we thought they were going to be coming into the year. Injury-wise, Rice is pretty healthy outside of a few defenders. Myron Morrison at linebacker, Play Wyatt at corner. He's been out really all season. And Marcus Williams at corner. On the other side, Demir Blankensee looked like he severely injured his knee doing a stupid celebration in the end zone. Marcelo Bussey's out. Brandon Thomas is out. That's a wide receiver and a running back. And Kobe Minor, one of their corners, has been out as well. So how do these teams stack up? Actually have Rice as a somewhat decent value against the spread. I'm waiting in hopes like a 10 pops or something. But the real difference here is Rice wins through their defense, where they're 22nd overall, 11th in coverage. Their big weakness is against the run, 60th, which does worry me against Mario Anderson. Memphis is going to win through their offense. They're 38th overall, good O-line, 4th in pass blocking, 33rd in run blocking. It's kept Hennigan healthy. He'll now be down one of his top receivers, presumably. I don't know. Watch the video and you tell me if you think Demir Blankenship is going to play. I would be shocked. If you're squeamish, don't watch it. But the real thing that I think drives this spread is Rice's inability to move the ball on offense, which has been a big surprise. This team doesn't have a horrible offensive line. They're not great, but they're 42nd in pass blocking, 108th in run blocking. E.J. Warner has been an unmitigated disaster for this team. He has 12 turnover-worthy plays. He has run a little bad. 10 of them have been turned into interceptions, but only 3 big-time throws. 6 yards per attempt, 62% completion. He just doesn't have a lot of weapons. Tight end, Broden Grown has been out. They lost some players already earlier this season. And, of course, they weren't able to replace Luke McCaffrey. So they've just really struggled to score. But one of the best ways to get right on offense is just play Memphis's defense, and you should score points on this team. It's just a little bit too many, in my opinion. I'll wait on this. If a 10 pops, there's a decent chance I take Rice. Otherwise, it will probably just be a stay away if it just remains inside the 10 points. And to close things out, we have a real barn burner in the Mountain West Conference. It is San Diego State and New Mexico. San Diego State hosting. In most spots, this is 2.5. There is a severely juiced 1.5. It's basically an effective 2.5. And the total in this game is 66 points. Monster total. A little bit eye-opening if you haven't watched San Diego State play this year, but they have a new coach and they're 16th in pace, the exact opposite of what they were doing last year. And basically, as long as I can remember being alive. New Mexico is also fast. They are 30th in pace. Both these teams have horrible defenses. New Mexico might be the worst defense in the country. They're 126th overall. They don't have a single unit inside the top 100. And they also have the 132nd ranked special teams. This team is a complete mess. San Diego State is 95th on defense, so they're not all that much better. And the problem with them, trenches. They are 118th in run defense. New Mexico struggles to throw the ball, but they have an electric signal caller and Devon Dampier, who's averaging over 7 yards per carry. That is a mess when you're facing a quarterback that can run like this. Not to mention their running backs are pretty good here too, with Eli Sanders, an Iowa State transfer. It's a good unit on the ground. There are some injuries. The number 1 receiver for New Mexico, Luke Wysong, he's been out. Tevin Shaw at tackle's been out. They have a ton of defensive injuries. A lot of them are depth. I don't think it matters. The defense was horrible before any of these guys got hurt, so I'm not even going to get into it. For San Diego State, they have a couple players at running back banged up. Owen Chambliss at linebacker missed their last game. They're the healthier team, but they've also been really bad on defense too, so I'm not sure it matters. To dive into some of the stylistics, we already mentioned New Mexico wants to just run the ball down your throat with that like 3-prong rushing attack they have, and they should have success. San Diego State has been a sieve on the ground. They did try to dedicate extra resources to Ashton Genty, only 4.8 yards per carry. But they have a long number of backs that have been productive against this team, going all the way back to like Cal, Oregon State, Central Michigan's Marion Lukes, nearly 5 yards per carry. Hawaii had nearly 5 yards per carry. It's just been a bad run defense across the board this year. And on the other side, San Diego State has some potential, especially because they played a few games without Danny O'Neal, and he actually got banged up in their last game, but it looks like he's going to play. Their line is around average, 65th in pass blocking, 73rd in run blocking. Marquez Cooper has been handling the load because of injury. Jalen Armstead and Keenan Kristen have been out for this team. Kristen did warm up for their last game, so we'll see on his status. But Danny O'Neal's a freshman, and he's been getting better, which is positive. 60% completion, 6.8 yards per attempt. 6 turnover-worthy plays, that's not that bad for this guy. They're basically using him as a game manager, which has been solid. And they've had some receivers in and out of the lineups. Lewis Brown, Jayshon Polk. Polk took a big hit in the last game, so you have to watch his status. But with everyone healthy, I would have some interest in San Diego State in this spot, especially inside of 3, which is readily available. but it's not one I'm going to take until I see those receivers warming up in particular. I mean, this New Mexico team has been unbelievable. They just allowed 49 points to Wyoming, a game they lost. Somehow the Colorado State game was only 17-6. They lost. They allowed 45 points to Utah State. They won that game barely. Air Force, they allowed 37 points to, who hasn't been able to score on anyone this year. But it's not been all that different for San Diego State. I mean, they just allowed 56 to Boise. That'll happen. Washington State, 29. I mean, the list goes on. These are two bad defenses that play fast against each other. And I think the better overall team is San Diego State when they're at full strength. So I'm not going to take this right now. We'll sit and wait. But let's recap quickly because we had the 4 games. Up at the top, interested in a Wake Forest side. Haven't taken it yet. We'll probably take this if it gets to 7.5, or might just take a 7. Rice, I'd have interest in at 10. Iowa, I'm going to take as soon as we get off the stream at a 6. And then this is the game I have the least interest in, the San Diego State side. We'll wait on injuries, but perhaps late in the day. Thank you guys for watching. If you have a comment, please leave it below if I missed something. Otherwise, reach out to me on Twitter. My DMs are open at Matt_Gajewski. Until next time, good luck. We'll see you guys later.